like, wow, you used to be a big boy. But it's interesting that we don't see it as it's happening, but looking back, we can see that it happened. Interesting. Some kind of psychology lesson to learn there, I'm sure. So eventually, like, that wasn't even enough of a problem for me to fix it at that point in time. I remember being startled, being kind of embarrassed, being like, kind of frustrated with yourself. But I moved on, right? I had other stresses in life to handle, so I didn't really think too much about it. And eventually I got to over 260 pounds before I realized I had a serious problem. So one thing I know, like, I'm a problem solver by nature. Like, my job is problem solving. I came to my job because it's kind of what I naturally gravitate towards, problem solving. And they're generally complex level problem solving. I take escalation cases into the technology world from highly competent engineers and technicians that are stuck either isolating or stuck troubleshooting a problem. So I kind of took the same approach with regard to my health. I looked at my weight as a problem and started to kind of break it down. And I remember thinking, if I can't take accurate measurements, that it's not even worth trying a diet because I won't know if it's working. And I remember, like, when I got serious, and I had tried things here and there, right? Like, I kind of try this, kind of try that. Oh, eat cleaner foods, don't eat fast food, eat at Subway, don't eat, whatever, eat healthy foods. So none of that really worked. I really didn't give it a really good go. But when I realized I could measure things accurately, and for $20 you can walk into a Walmart and grab yourself like a scale that's going to give you a fat reading and a body fat reading. It might even give you a bunch of other readings, but really, if you get a weight and a body fat reading, you can work with that. I remember thinking, like, that's going to get me there. That's all I need to really watch. If I watch my body fat percentage and my weight, I'm going to know if I'm going in the right direction. So I started doing that, and I noticed very quickly that this body fat number, first off, it's all over the place. It might say 38% on the first reading, and the next day it might say 32% or even 26. And I remember thinking, like, okay, this is impossible. This is not working. So I did some research. I did some experiments. I did some research, and I eventually found that the scale uses a technology called bioelectric impedance. And we're not going to get deep in the tech here, but the bioelectric impedance works based on your level of hydration. In order to be accurate, or I shouldn't say accurate, but in order to be consistent, you need to have a consistent level of hydration. And I remember I learned that because I kept seeing, like, man, these numbers are all over the place. So again, a bunch of research, a bunch of experiments, and I found that if I drank 20 ounces of water upon waking, you got to build a routine. So I found that I built a morning routine that got me a consistent result. And my morning routine looked like this. Have that water ready to go when you wake up. Have 20 ounces of water ready to go. So upon waking, you drink 20 ounces of water. You take care of your morning business. You take a shower, brush your teeth, use the restroom. I would make breakfast, and then I had an alarm that would go off 45 minutes after I woke up. So I had like a 6 a.m. alarm to wake up and a 6:45 alarm to take my weight. So I would do my morning business, and when that 6:45 alarm went off, it would have been 45 minutes since I drank 20 ounces of water. I'd take my weight, my body fat, and I would log that, I would log it like in MyFitnessPal, or even if you just write it down, right? So then you go on with your day. You eat your breakfast, you drive to work or whatever. And you would do this, I would do this every single day. So without exception, doesn't matter if it's a holiday, Christmas, is it Easter, doesn't matter what day it is, every single day I'm getting a body fat and a weight, and I'm doing it using a method that will produce me a consistent body fat reading. Now, keep in mind, 20 ounces of water certainly weighs something. That doesn't matter. You're just trying to capture a consistent path. You want to see the trend. Am I trending in the correct direction? And it doesn't always trend in the correct direction, right? Like, you might be do good for 3 days in a row, and then it goes up a little. And that's going to happen. It's not a big deal. It's going to happen. You're really interested in the trend over time. So I was keeping an eye on the trend over time. And with that, I was able to try different diets and see what worked for me. I tried the Whole30 diet. Like, I lived right around the corner from like a natural grocer, and so I had easy access to quality food, and I didn't really see any results doing the Whole30 plan. So I tried to I augmented that to doing like a vegetarian only plan. That didn't work so great for me. I couldn't really get results. I tried juice fasting. Now, juice fasting, I saw results, but it has its pros and cons. It also, there's a big correction that happens when you go off the juice fast. Now, I tried all this stuff for years, like probably a period of about 3 years before I eventually found my way to a nutritional response testing place that tested my level of sensitivity to various different foods. And then they gave me a list that said, look, these are foods that you need to avoid. These are foods that are causing you stress, causing you issues that your body just doesn't respond well to. And through the nutritional response testing, they gave me a list, and basically it was like, a big list of the foods I'm eating. It's like, well, you shouldn't eat rye, spelt, amaranth. And I'm thinking like, man, I've worked hard to eat rye, spelt, and amaranth as my source of grains instead of like, wheat and oats. So I'm thinking like, man, I really worked hard towards eating the wrong foods. So anyways, they gave me a list of, eat this, don't eat that. After reviewing it, I found that, the list of do eats really well fits the slow carb diet. They're a bunch of low GI type of foods. And it was, eat these types of protein and make sure there's greens in every meal. And basically it was beans, greens, and protein for every meal. And that's really like the slow carb diet. Beans meaning legumes, right? Pinto beans, black beans, that kind of stuff. So beans, greens, and protein for every meal. And through doing that and taking the measurements, I was able to see like, hey, this is working. This one is for sure actually working. It's a kind of a low energy type of deal. So, if you're planning to do an intense exercise, the slow carb diet kind of, makes you feel kind of slow. It makes you, not so explosive in your movements. So, later I started doing jujitsu and I tried the slow carb diet and it was like noticeably lower energy. But the slow carb diet is for sure one that I found worked great for me. And I found that based on making the measurements, just having that daily routine that says, look, you're going to drink water, you're going to drink 20 ounces of water, you're going to go handle your daily business, you're going to take your weight 45 minutes later before you eat and get your body fat measurement, write those down and move on with your day. And then with that, I was able to test what diets work and what don't. Now, eventually, for me personally, I found that the slow carb diet's fine if I'm not doing intense exercise. I can still do bike rides. I'd still do like moderate intensity bike rides. But when I wanted to do the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the more intense, longer endurance type exercise, I found the keto diet to work a lot better. Just the basic keto, 80% fat, 15% protein, and 5% carbs. You have a tendency to, when you do the keto diet, you have a tendency to eventually not eat in the morning. So it kind of naturally leads its way to your hunger sensations being less frequent. Your meals become more planned. You find that maybe what you were doing in the past with food was because it was exciting. It was your source of pleasure. And I found personally that while I used to get plenty of excitement and pleasure from eating, foods that are just explosive with flavor, well, maybe food isn't where you're supposed to get all that excitement from. That excitement can come from bike riding, jujitsu, running, being athletic, hanging out and playing with your kids, skateboarding, snowboarding. Like, you can replace that excitement that you would get out of your food with exciting activities. And for me, I would say that's just kind of been my natural progression. Food for sure can replace the excitement in your life, but it seems to lead towards, less healthy lifestyle. So anyways, I just want to share with you the main takeaway from this should be that for Dave, taking that daily measurement is what allowed me to figure out what worked. That the nutritional response really shortened the process because I didn't have to go through years and years and years of trying different diets to see what worked. I was able to go get a nutritional response test that said, avoid rye, spelt, amaranth, cheese, dairy, blah, blah, blah. So that really like expedited the process of narrowing down what I should and shouldn't eat, and then using the scale to confirm it, taking those body fat measurements, and eventually getting yourself to peak fitness. So I look forward to working towards my current goal, which is getting from 22.1% body fat on the BIA scale, the bioelectric impedance scale, working that down closer to maybe 17 between now and December 8th. So wish me luck.